AviationPros.com is the portal website for AMT, Airport Business, and Ground Support Worldwide magazines. Visit daily for breaking news, industry blogs, and insightful articles from our magazine's editorial team. And don't forget to sign up for our publication's daily e-newsletters. It's all at AviationPros.com.
Hello and welcome to the Aviation Pros podcast. I'm Josh Smith, editor of Ground Support Worldwide. Today we're speaking with Brian Podsiadlik, product and training manager at Task Force Tips, as well as Paul Neely, aviation ice control expert at Task Force Tips, to learn a little bit more about the various types of de-icing nozzles and the advantages that each style offer the ground handling industry. So Paul and Brian, I want to thank you for letting me join you here at your headquarters in Valparaiso, Indiana, to record this episode and share a little more information with our listeners.
Well, anytime. It's a pleasure and happy to have you here.
And Paul, we're appreciative of your time as well.
You're welcome here anytime.
Well, I really thought it'd be helpful to use this visit to talk about just those difference between various types of nozzles to help further the education of our audience here. And so for de-icing operations, generally speaking, how many different types of spraying nozzles are available through TFT or otherwise? And what are some of the key differences between those styles?
Sure. How many are we up to, Paul? 30-something different options?
30, 35. I'd have to really go look at the list.
And most people think, well, a nozzle is just a nozzle, but to Paul's statement about having up to 35 models, the model numbers differ because of the type of inlet. The inlet to the nozzle could be NPT thread, they could be IPT thread. It could have a different style handle. It could be a handle that you traditionally just grab a hold of and pull it open or closed. We also have a trigger operated handle that operates almost like a gasoline a gasoline pump. So, and another thing that could change the model number, Paul, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, is the pressure and flow rating.
Pressure and flow rating, the combination nozzle, which would be a nozzle that would be able to be used with either one of the fluids, or specifically de-icing nozzles, or specifically anti-icing nozzles. The fluids are different, so the nozzles are somewhat different.
Yeah. And that's set forth by SAE, right? Yep.
Yeah.
Obviously, TFT got its start in the firefighting industry, and then has kind of evolved that product line to assist with ice control and ground handling tasks. So obviously, with that, I'm going to guess there's been quite a bit of customer feedback that you've had to take in and integrate into some of your nozzle models. Can you share a few examples of maybe how the ground handling industry impacted those designs?
Oh, sure. I mean, just getting into the ground support industry for ice control in aviation, we had to change the pressure control unit that's installed within the nozzle. We also had to change a valve shutoff mechanism. We changed the material. And as time evolved, we end up changing that material once again for better longevity in the field. It used to be a type of nitrile or butyl rubber. I forgot which one, but and now it's solid aluminum with a simple gasket around that solid aluminum piece on the inside of the nozzle. So throughout the evolution of these products, we've made these little tweaks from direct feedback of the ground support teams out there. And to go even one step further, not only have we made simple design changes, but we've also made a whole new solution, like our brand new ice control nozzle that's operated with a trigger. It has a heat shield for the operator that's handling it, and it has an extra handle for just better leverage and operability out there in the field. And so all those things are direct feedback from the ground support crews all over the world.
Paul, you alluded to the pressure and the flow rate a little earlier. Can we dive into that a little bit more and understand that process a little bit? When a de-icing service provider is looking for the right nozzle for their operation, what considerations in regards to flow and pressure do they need to take in?
Typically are two different pressures with the same nozzle, two different flow rates with the same nozzle. If you're pumping at 70 psi, it's going to be X amount of gallons per minute. If you're pumping at 150 psi, that same nozzle is going to flow a higher flow rate. Obviously, it's important that we don't waste any fluids because of the remediation that has to occur. And let's face it, de-icing products are not cheap. The liquids are expensive, and subsequently they want to get an aircraft de-iced in a very quick fashion, but a very complete fashion.
Cost of ownership, I think, ties into that, and I mean that's one of the many reasons why over the years we've decided to put serial numbers on every single product. You look at that serial number, it'll tell you the exact model number, when it was built, who built it. Gives you the rundown of repair parts. So that serial number is a key to the city for asset management, which could be even more important to a private company that's handling ground support for an airport.
And like Lee said, I mean, the serial numbers are the basis for repair history. So we can track issues with hardware. If there is a pattern that we are suspicious of, we can go back to all of the repairs over the last several years and pull by class code what really is going on with the equipment. That gives us an opportunity to continue to improve with things like the valve seat, like Brian was mentioned earlier today.
How do nozzles differ between de-icing use and anti-icing operations use? I understand there's some color coding, but are there other beyond that? Are there other specifications that users need to be aware of?
Yeah, for sure. And back to Paul's point about kind of going over the pressure and flow rates. So for instance, this nozzle right here is for de-icing only, and very high pressure but very low flow rate. So meaning that high pressure is going to punch through that sheet of ice on the aircraft and snow. So that's de-icing only. And then you have a nozzle that's good for both fluids. If you look at the anti-icing side, that's only 50 psi. So 20 gallons per minute at 50 psi is one call out for anti-icing, and then 80 gallons per minute at 120 psi is for de-icing. So there's lots of different models specific to the standards set forth by SAE within that tolerance.
And the amount of time the fluids are going to be on the aircraft.
Yep.
They can only sit so long after being de-iced and or the anti-icing fluid. If it's in the middle of a storm, they put the anti-icing fluid on the aircraft to keep the snow and the ice from building up on the aircraft. But it's all under a time constraint, just because eventually the product's going to be off of the aircraft. And depending on the rain, slush, I mean, Lord knows we see it all here.
And it is pretty cool sitting on the aircraft, watching them spray that aircraft down, and you look out the window and it's, hey, that's a TFT nozzle.
How do you know that, Brian?
Yeah.
because of the Scotch-Light labels. That's what we do.
Yeah, yeah. That all our nozzles have that reflective labeling, which the Scotch-Light material, we all know. Many products use it throughout our lives, but once that light hits that Scotch-Light, it's like, whoa, okay, that's us.
We refer to standards set by the SAE and the G12 de-icing subcommittee. I'm obviously a lot of experts in that organization and on that committee, and then there are manufacturers like yourselves. Those are two good resources. Are there other resources that folks can reach out to better understand their needs as it pertains to de-icing nozzles?
I'd say you, sir. I'll do the shameless plug for you, but listening to this podcast and having experts in the field that go around to different facilities and kind of explore the world, I guess. When you get in a certain environment, right, wrong, or indifferent, you may get blinders to something that's done a certain way, but when you visit other facilities, you gain more life experience, you just have a greater perspective of things, and you can kind of take those perspectives, combine them together, and still come up with a system or process that works for your specific facility. So I think to keep doing what you're doing in the podcasts and with your publication, and I think is great. Obviously, I believe membership in professional organizations, you will get out of it what you put into it, and TFT has been a member for many years, and just simply showing up, I'm not saying you have to be president of the board, but just simply showing up to the meetings and gaining that knowledge and that network, it's awesome.
Well, very good. I appreciate that insight. And Paul, Brian, I want to thank you again for joining us on the podcast to just share a little bit more details. It's been a very enjoyable conversation, and I hope an educational one for those listening.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
If you'd like to learn more about Task Force Tips and its range of de-icing and anti-icing equipment, you can visit www.tft.com. And for more information about de-icing equipment, winter ground handling operations, and more, you can stay up to date by subscribing to Ground Support Worldwide's daily newsletter. And if you enjoyed this episode of the Aviation Pros podcast, please subscribe to it wherever you download your podcasts, rate and review it, and be sure to share it with your colleagues in the industry. And as always, please continue to visit AviationPros.com.